Hey guys, food for thought. So I just heard a doctor talking about sunspots and how we don't receive them as a child because our body is able to efficiently regulate our melanin. But as an adult, our bodies are less efficient at regulating melanin in the body, and that's why you get sunspots. And that could be true. I'm not a doctor. But I also understand there's a lack of information because that same doctor talks about depression and foods associated with depression. So if you can't understand how depression is caused by choices that we make that make us unhappy, it would also assume that maybe this doctor, who is not a doctor of this, but a doctor of other sciences, may be misunderstanding certain health concerns. And I am just by experience. So like I'm an amateur, I'm just wondering. And so it's interesting because like if you actually recognize how many people are actually miserable in this world, convincing themselves that they're happy. And this is, so like my experience is if I make unhealthy choices for myself, then I carry and experience unhealthy emotions. So like if I'm going to make bad decisions, it's going to keep me stuck in life, and I'm going to constantly be having like sort of karma, because karma for me is education. So if you're creating painful experiences in your life and you don't know why or where they're coming from, and you've been given these excuses by other people, then the idea is that you could potentially be living a life and just making excuses for yourself, like, and settling in a situation without the solution. And so I think a lot of people are not happy in their life. They've convinced themselves that this is the best, and they convince themselves they're happy by doing things that happy people do, you know? And it just makes me wonder that I do believe emotions, but it's not just the emotions. It's the lifestyle that creates the emotions that then, you know, if you can't regulate your emotions, that means if you can't recognize the emotions, that means if you can't recognize the pain causing the emotions and you can't find solutions how to create change, then your body doesn't know how to manage certain minerals and vitamins. And I wonder about that. I don't know, but it makes me wonder. So a lot of the people responsible for some of these dysregulated emotions and misinformation are the ones who double down onto it and aren't really willing to see how they've hurt other people. So I know for me and my family, like there's no sort of acknowledgement like on how they've caused hurt. There's just a lot of, you know, I did this because of this, and you know what, the life I gave you was better than I had, so that totally dismisses any sort of pain I placed on you. Like that makes me sin-free. It's kind of like, but you didn't actually acknowledge the sin, right? So it's just interesting how some people will sidestep the pain that they caused you and just kind of like walk past it and act like it didn't even happen. And I think society lives like that a lot, because even the people, so it's not just about, like, I've been in low income, and I've always been struggling, and my struggle could be someone else's blessing, right? But for what I've also worked for everything that I've had. It's not like things have been given to me. I've had to work harder in workplaces because I've been targeted, and so there are things that I've had to tolerate abuse, pretend like it's not happening. It's like those creepy married men at work where you feel like you're being paid and you can't leave your position because you're at work, and if you were to complain to the boss about this man who keeps coming by every day to talk to you and you really couldn't care less about it, you're just kind of like, you know, you tolerate it. And so there's things where it just makes me wonder, there are people who make money and you can see their choices. A lot of people look up to these people, the millionaires and the billionaires, and be like, wow, I would love to have your life. But like, some of these people are miserable and doing it for all the wrong reasons. So it's like, if you lack fulfillment and you lack purpose and you just sell yourself out to make money. So some people, because they've been bullied so badly, what they do is they sidestep the healing and they go right into like, I don't give a shit about people, I just want to make money. And that's where you have like insurance brokers and people who, you know, take government jobs that are meant to be supportive, but they have no interest in support. They just want status, they just want money, and so they just take the job, right? They're very good at faking it without making it. And so I think society can look at all these different experiences and be like, wow, I want to be like that, I want to do that. But like, if you actually knew what was behind their information and lack of experience, I think it's interesting because like so like I'm 46 and I'm realizing this, and I just started realizing at the age of 40. So how This, and I don't think I'm the only one. I just don't think it's promoted out there, because what if you could just heal your depression by yourself? What if you just had to choose yourself, and then now you don't feel anxious? What if you were given permission to learn at your own speed, in your own pace, in your own path? What if you, like, that would create such a happier society, right? So why isn't that happening? Because in order for that information to come through, we have to disregard the Bible. We have to disregard some of these therapists. We have to disregard our doctors. All those people in these high positions have to be told, you were wrong. It's like the parent and the child. This is why, like with my parent, like if I'm doing better than them, they don't like that, because it's like they can't see how wisdom can come from the bottom. And if you actually listen to children, they're the most honest. And I'm not talking about the ones that have been adultified and like sit with the adults and talk like they're one. That's not what I'm talking about. If you honestly talk to a child, they're very honest with their opinions. And it's not opinions, it's just they're stating, you know, they don't have that filter. And that filter being judgment from others, that, you know, that evil eye that they get when they're speaking the truth, and the parent doesn't want everyone to see that or know that, you know, the house at home is actually dishes on the counter, dirty laundry all over the bed. No, of course our house is immaculate. It's how you see it on my posts, on my social media, right? And so there's a lot of people in high places that don't want to acknowledge that the youth actually have the answers. This is like, there's like I think like a high school student, that high school students that are finding ways to clean our oceans. So like with that in place, why is it so hard for some of these people? You got to ask, why is it so hard for these people to understand? And like, well, we'll give them, well, that's just how they are. That's just how they grew up. No, because that's an excuse. This person wants to stay stuck like that because they're benefiting from others staying stuck. That's the answer. It's not a, oh, poor my dad who has grown all these years. He's like 80 years old and still cannot admit when he's wrong. That's not a poor me. That's a him thing. That he needs to hold himself in high regard, no matter of who he's hurting. So if my dad's like that, so can yours, and so can your neighbors, and so can societies, and so can your grandparents. And so we have to look at these people who have chosen to look the other way. This is a choice, you know, because if they're not making it and they're not choosing, they're not, oh, well, society was different for them. Is it? Is it? Because we're talking about morals right now. We're talking about morals. Right and wrong. And the interesting thing is, if you were to treat these same people that have placed themselves up on pedestals, if you ask them these questions, they get defensive. They're not curious. They're protecting something, right? Their position, because it's based on nothing. It's like fluff. And so this is also where I recognize this happens also in the spiritual community, because it's like when someone, you go to like you're just sad and you're feeling dark, and so there must be entities attached to you, so you go to get them removed and clear up your energy field, and so you go get this done by a Reiki practitioner. Well, I mean, have they done the work? Because you can't remove this shit through distance. You can't do that. The only way you can remove the pain in your life is to acknowledge where it's coming from and make the proper changes to change course and make different decisions. That's the only way. You cannot do this through the energy healing is going to feel good in the moment, and it's going to feel great. And even when you have, like, I remember I've done energy work in the past with a group, and like I would leave those meetings feeling so supported, so in connect with other people that were supposedly like-minded. But after I'd leave, I would be raised so high and then drop so low, because I'm like, what is going on? And I'm like, I can't maintain this on a regular basis. I can't keep this consistent. And the reason why is the solutions that I was being given to release the emotions and face the pain of my past was not being met with real, true information on how to do that. Like, it was just kind of like, well, stop sacrificing yourself. Stop giving yourself to other people. Okay, how do I do that? Why do I do that? Let's find out, why do I do that, so I can figure out how to stop. So there's like missing sentences in these arenas that are meant to try to like help you and support you, but they're really just taking from you. Because like if you keep struggling, here's the thing I'm recognizing too, is like part of this emotional purge I don't know if that's healthy either. I'm looking at it like, what if I'm so invested in the pain. What if I take a look at where the pain is coming from so I can stop the pain instead of feeling like I have to keep purging? And while I think that is an important process, because until you get there, you're going to keep it's kind of like having you have a boat and there's so many holes in it. You can only plug one hole at a time. Okay, so there's going to be constant flow of water in your boat until you get to a point where you can structurally, soundly create that foundation, right? And so if you don't know where the pain is coming from, you can't stop that leak. So if you make excuses like, I just need a Reiki healing, if I just need to eat right, you know what I mean? All these things, instead of the root of the cause, which is the life that you're living was never built for you. It was based on someone else's belief systems who didn't want to take a chance and love themselves. That's the reality of the situation, the information you were given. And then when you actually go a little bit further, you realize this was done intentionally to allow yourself to really close that door, because anyone who has held this pattern for a lifetime has never wanted to look. Let's be honest. They're not curious. They don't care. This works for them. Hurting others, they can see the pain. They thrive off the pain. The pain makes them feel big and you feel small. You just got to be honest with the situation. And that's why I recognize these people, they were never meant for me. And when you start standing up for yourself, you're going to see people remove yourself. And sometimes they're going to be feral. Like, you're going to get some feral energy in there. And that's just like all display. That's all a show. It's another way they're going to try to make you feel like isolated and targeted and by yourself. And they want that for you because you are getting answers that they never asked. Right? And it may seem like it's happening effortlessly, but it's just because you have been resilient since a child. You've been forced to, because you've been the burden. You've been the burden since a child because you would not conform. You could not control. And while you suppress for a bit and while you people please, there is something still stirring underneath the whole time that you couldn't forget and you couldn't let go of. And that's where the self-love comes in, and you come back and that comes full circle. And so recognizing these patterns that are somebody else's and these pain is somebody else's is so important to recognize, like, why we're doing stuff and like the beliefs that we have been forced upon ourselves. And because it's happened a long period of time, it's going to take some time. So yeah, I just think it's just something to think about. That's my perspective. I hope this helps. Take care.